Christmas, everybody. I've got a special Christmas present for you this lovely Christmas day. Up you come.
Hello.
He's back for a day. Where have you been?
48 hours only.
48 hours, you're doing your tour. It's a bit like a sort of book tour. You're sort of in and gone.
I like to call it a grand tour.
A grand tour.
Which
trademark to Jeremy Clarkson.
A grand tour around
so
Fife, which only has one location.
Yes.
Which is the only settlement with any degree of culture. And that is St Andrews.
Dunfermline's now a city.
Well, it used to be the capital of Scotland, and it's its greatest shame. I think it's Scotland's greatest shame, probably.
Dunfermline?
Yeah, because now it's motorways. And
No. There's bigger shitholes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Livingston. Post-war town that failed. Anyway, to serve an industry that doesn't exist. Anyway, thank you for welcoming me back. I don't work here anymore.
No, where have you been?
I now live in London, which is just a slightly larger version of St Andrews, with albeit less Americans proportionally, but you can still hear them. The tube is quite dirty, and there is a pavement tax, but we get by.
Is there?
Yeah, well,
what's the pavement tax?
If I can walk out on the road, and it's a tenner basically.
You get charged for jaywalking?
Well, here you get paid for it.
Well, that's true.
Microphones.
Yes. Yeah.
But yes, I'm back.
Just for a day.
And inevitably we're drinking port.
Yes, we had to. We couldn't do anything but, really.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago, when he was last here, which was your last Christmas here.
That's right.
Because you were supposed to come last year and didn't. Why didn't you do?
Trains,
Trains, okay.
And it was a combination of COVID and strikes, and I think the people who work for the railways just couldn't be asked to run them. So it was a number of factors which meant that I couldn't be here.
Yeah. And 2 years ago we did Graham's 91.
We did indeed, and that was that on Christmas Eve as well?
I think we recorded a load on the 23rd.
It was just before, yeah.
And then they went out between Christmas and New Year.
Yeah.
And so we are actually recording this on Christmas Eve. Nobody's here yet, which is really quite nice.
Yes, I know.
Peaceful.
Yeah.
And we decided to do Churchills 91. Now, tell them about Churchills.
Before I do, I'm going to expand and expostulate on the subject of Christmas Eves at St Andrews Wine Company.
Right, okay.
My first ever one, it's quite reminiscent of that.
I might just sit down.
Yeah, all right.
You carry on.
Well,
carry on.
That chair is made for you.
I know it really was.
So my first Christmas Eve here, it was just me and Pete. And it was a Dom Perignon 96 and bacon rolls, remember that?
Yeah, it was.
And that was, I'll never forget that. The sheer layers of that wine. And that was nice. I quite liked that because it was intimate, it was just the two of us.
Yeah. It
was very, very chill. We also opened Churchills 85.
Did we?
Yes, we did.
Oh, right.
It's all cosmic, it's all coming back. So, 91, well, we'll talk about 91 and Churchills.
Yes.
So 91 first. Not the most legendary vintage ever known to man port-wise.
No.
To the point where they're now basically coming around to, they've shed all their adolescence, basically, the 91s.
Yeah, excuse me a second. Our new heater has kicked in, which is really annoying.
That thing does move around.
It does.
It's like a very sort of menacing deus ex machina. An evil character that's not evil, it's just annoying. And it comes in when you least expect it. I'll take this opportunity to comb my hair.
Come on.
Come on, Bridget.
Why won't you work?
Come the fuck on, Bridget.
Stop it! Stop! Why won't you work?
Stop
Turn
doing
off.
what I installed you for.
How do I turn you off? Child lock!
Child lock. There is not a child lock.
Off. Tick. There we go.
Now, this is why handymen exist. It's not actually that difficult, but when you know how, it's very easy. But they dupe you and make you pay them expensive fees.
That is true.
To make you think that it's actually some sort of secretive knowledge that they hold. But actually, it's...
It's basically Control-Alt-Delete.
Yes, exactly. It's Shift, move along one, F5.
Yeah. So anyway, where were we before we got interrupted by the heater?
We're in 1991.
Yes, we were.
What were you doing in 1991?
Moving to Scotland.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that when that was?
I moved to Scotland in the autumn of 91, yeah.
Oh, there we are.
There we go.
And while
What
that
were you
was
doing?
happening, I was embryonic.
Embryonic.
But
You weren't even embryonic.
Yes, no. Well, I was just yes, I was just.
You were a single cell.
I was just elected to Hounslow West, and with
Probably more qualified.
I wasn't allowed in the House of Commons because I had 3 top hats on. Anyway,
Yes.
so we're talking about the 1991 vintage, not the most legendary.
No.
But the Graham's 91 was absolutely sexual.
It is, and I think what Graham's, what 91s are doing now is they're drinking well now. They're not going to be these wines that will last an eternity. I was actually reading up on this wine. I can't remember the guy's name, and he was saying a good mid-term ager.
Yes.
So we're at mid-term.
How they often put these vintages that are sort of widely-ish declared, but 91 is another split vintage.
Yeah.
So, for example, the Fladgate partnership, so Fonseca and Croft,
Taylor's.
they declared 92.
Yeah.
The Symingtons largely went for 91.
Yeah.
War is a little bit thin round the gills, so if you've got a War 91, I would drink that up. Graham has got a bit more stuffing left in it.
But Graham's is a sweeter one, so it's got more power, it's got more weight to it.
It's also just got more structure. Because War is it can be incredibly long-lived, but it's made from vineyards that are a bit cooler, so it's always a lighter wine.
Yeah. And this Churchill's 91, so owned by the Graham's family. They sold Graham's in 1970, and they started
Johnny
Churchill's.
Graham.
Johnny Graham started Churchill's in 82.
That's right,
Yeah.
81.
81 was the first vintage.
82 was which we have had and which we bought together. We have a case of 10, which is, the
9.
traditional number. Oh, 9 now.
9 now, yeah.
I've got 5, he's got 4. So, yeah, basically, Johnny Graham was working for Coolburns, I think.
Yeah.
And then was like, beep this, I'm going to do my own thing. And he just wanted to make, and it was the first British porthouse established in half a century or something like that.
Probably longer than that.
Probably longer than that. But that's why I love Churchill's, because it's so new and it's so modern as a house, and it's so young as a house, but it's just so wonderfully traditional, and it's like in the tradition of British port sippers.
But I think what is really cool about Churchill's is that they've gone for a drier style of port.
Yes.
So it's it's still sweet, but they've gone for a drier style. They've not just mimicked what Graham's used to do.
Yeah.
And what Churchill's do is they've got this drier style, which yes might mean they don't last as long. Yes, it might mean that they aren't as big and sweet and lush and delicious.
Wonderful.
But it means that they're really, really flexible. And the thing I always have a problem with particularly things like the port and cheese thing is the fact that most people drink port when it's younger.
Yeah.
And that sort of massive sweetness and that massive tannin sort of masks any cheese benefit. You need
true.
old vintage port to work well with things like Stilton and so on.
Because, and I just love the lighter style. Like Johnny Graham himself said that he wants to put as little fortifying spirit in as possible. And that means fermenting more sugar into alcohol, so you're going to get a drier style port. That's how Dow's is made, for example.
Yeah.
So the way, like the reason that Dow and Graham are the same alcohol, but Dow is much drier, is they ferment more sugar into alcohol and add less spirit. Graham's they ferment less sugar and add more spirit, so it's up to 20. Yeah. But and that's the wonderful stylistic flexibility. One last technical point.
Yes.
Churchill's. And they had to take the name Churchill, which is Johnny Graham's wife's maiden name, because obviously you can't call yourself Graham for obvious reasons. They bought their Quinta de Gricha in 1999, which is above Quinta de Roriche, north-facing in the Cima Corgo. But before that, these wines were made up of just like a random mix of old vineyards. So the wines, the vintages 82, 85, and 91 are actually much bigger, beefier wines than the style that Johnny Graham actually wanted to make based on Quinta de Gricha. So actually, these wines are probably longer lived than modern Churchill vintage ports. But they are absolutely wonderful because they're made of like amazing A-grade vineyards in Val de Mendiz and Rio Torto. So they're actually really, really beefy wines. And this 91 is just red as...
It's red fruit.
It's just red.
Bucket loads of red fruit. And you're getting this little sort of sweetness coming through, but it's so subtle. There's not this big jamminess. It's just wispy. Really ripe fruit.
It's wispy.
Yeah.
And it's just so elegant, and it's just so sort of waffleable.
There's little hints of sort of nuances of spice. It's almost like you've just gone to a a drawer with your spices in and
Yeah.
open the drawer. You've not opened anything, but it's just that little sort of nutmeggy, clovey sort of thing, just wafting out a little bit.
And it's like, ooh, there's some spice, but you're not shoving it in your face.
Yeah,
you know,
I was
as
doing.
you usually do in the morning.
Of course, I mean, what is it without snorting cloves? So,
I told you to snort ground nutmeg.
Ground
Do
nutmeg,
it
sorry,
properly.
apologies.
Not the
apologies.
full beans up
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
It's terrible. But it's just, it's tethered, it's tailored, for want of a better word. It's restrained.
Savoury. I mean, I only opened this about 20 minutes ago, and in a few hours, that's going to have really lost that tannin. It's going to fatten up. It's a little thin, just opened, and this is the important thing about decanting port.
Yeah.
I just think it's a little bit sleeping, but with some time to open up, that's really going to blossom and become this beautiful, bigger, richer, rounder, fruitier style.
That's so much life ahead of it. Like,
but it's got that delicacy.
Yeah.
It's got that lack of spirit. It's got that it's whiny.
yeah, very much.
It's not.
So. It's
almost like not. Yes.
Yeah.
It's not porty almost. No. You've got the sweetness there, but it's so.
That's
so
the wonderful thing.
constrained.
I love dry port.
Yeah.
Dry is different because it's still a really, really ripe wine, but this is like almost as dry as vintage port can get. And I love that. And that's the favoured Portuguese style.
Yeah.
So it's actually a British house making things in the sort of Portuguese
way.
But I just think that's fascinating because it's port, it's sweet, it's red. What is it? The first duty of port is to be red.
Yes.
But it's dry as hell.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that contrast.
And then that sweetness is just kicking into sort of go, yes, I'm not a table wine, I'm actually port. And that little bit of nudge of booze is just, I'm a fortified wine, I'm not a table wine.
Yeah.
It's just got that little bit of porty depth.
Yeah. But not too much.
But not too much, but it's restrained.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, you could drink this at what now, 32 years old, with a wide range of foods. And
the amazing thing about this as well, and it just shows you the mad makeup that was going into Churchill's vintages before Quinta de Grecia. This is way younger, way beefier, way more structured than either War or Graham.
Yeah.
It's got way more tannin.
Yep.
So the deal that Johnny had, I think it was with Alves de Souza, some Portuguese chap, and he had lots of vine somewhere in a mountainous region. But like,
you don't care about getting us cancelled anymore, do you?
No, of course not. We already have been 50 times.
Yes.
But it's just so structured.
Yeah.
For a 91, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And it just like, it must be one of the most blockbuster wines of the vintage.
Yeah.
It must be one of the most
I love this. This is cracking stuff. We don't have any to sell.
As usual.
As usual.
We
As
just
is
drink
part
in
of the
front
course
of you.
for Ben and I when we do videos. Miller's much more, we've got to try and sell this. It's in a really nice
drive sales, and I'm like, we've got to drive our palates and our stomachs.
Yes. But it's a nice balance between the two. Actually, that's unfair to Miller.
Miller is good at her job. I am not.
Actually, that's a very good way of
I never swept the shop. I never really sold any wine. I just sort of lived here for 4 years.
Yeah, but we didn't have the chairs then.
That's true.
Which is a bit of a shame.
The only
because
difference
you are,
is now I can sit down.
Yes, whilst you drink my wine. Anyway, I miss you. I don't like it that you're not here, but I like it that you're in London and you're enjoying yourself down there. So thank you for coming back on Christmas Eve.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you for doing this on Christmas Day. Give a shout out to your new employer.
Shout out to new employer.
Who are you working for?
I work for a little shop in Chelsea called Mother Vine.
So if you're in London, go see them.
And you can drink wine in there, but we charge you service charge unlike here.
Yeah. Whereas if the wine's here, it's free.
It pays my rent.
Yes.
Please pay me.
Please pay. Thank you for coming back for one day. Not that you're going to do any work. You're just going to sit there and drink wine all day, aren't you?
Exactly.
Yeah. And talk to people.
Starting from now. Oh, hello.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have a lovely Christmas. I'll see you in a couple of days. He won't.
Merry Christmas.